What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Phil Sarpong. I am a certified personal trainer. Here's my certification right here. And I post regular workouts for personal training. If you're interested, definitely check out some of the links below. And if you like the content, definitely subscribe to the channel and like this video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the ACE exam and how I studied for it and how I passed my exam. And so there's a lot of information online already about how to study for the ACE. I'm going to try my best to give you some tips and share some ideas that maybe you haven't heard of, maybe you already have. In case you're wondering, the pass rate on this exam is 65%, which isn't very high. Me personally, I studied for about 5 weeks for this exam, and that is what worked for me. It's very important to find out what works for you and to understand your background and how much time that you might have to implement to do well on this exam. So I know a lot of people that spent a month to 3 months to 6 months. Some people spent only 100 hours studying for the exam. Some people spent 200. Some people spent 300. It really does depend on you and what you feel comfortable with. I personally think that the test itself is not that hard as long as you come prepared and as long as you study the things that you know for sure are going to be on the exam. Me personally, I felt like I had plenty of time to go through the test. I was actually able to go through it once completely, and then I went through a second time to just checking over my answers. And even after going through a second time, I still had time on the exam. And so I never felt like I was pressured for time. It's 3 hours long, so plenty of time to go through the questions. Make sure you're reading each question carefully and answering all the questions. All right, and so the test I took had a lot of applications. In other words, there was a lot of videos of someone doing an exercise, and you basically had to say what they were doing wrong. So if they were doing a push-up and they were hyperextending their back, you would mention that they were hyperextending their back, and then you would mention some things in terms of how to correct it. And so I thought this was really cool because if you're already a personal trainer but you're not certified, you probably see this every day at the gym or when you're training your clients. Just the different postural elements that people have and how to correct it and how to help people through that. So I thought that was great. I loved how the application settings were perfect for what you could actually see in real life. So that was awesome. Now, to actually finally get into the tips of how to ace this exam. Number one is to get the book. Now, you can get the book either through Amazon or some other online source. I think the best way to go is just to go through ACE themselves. They have a range of different packages in terms of what you can get for each package. Some of you may or may not know that right now the ACE website is actually having a sale in terms of all their packages. So me personally, I got the basic package, or the basic version, which is basically comes with the book. It comes with a study guide, a practice test, answers to the test. It goes through all these online resources that breaks down each chapter and has a quiz after every chapter. And this was great, but it was all digital. So I didn't get an actual physical copy of the book. But that's okay. I didn't really need it. So if you're someone that likes to have a physical copy of a book, it might be good to go with some of the other packages that they have. I think either the Plus or the Advantage has packages where it does come with the book and it comes with more resources and more exams to take. You're going to hear from other sources that reading through the book is essential and is enough. I will echo that. I will echo the fact that reading through the book is definitely important, but also taking as many questions from different sources to me was highly, highly beneficial. And so in terms of just the book itself, the personal training guide manual, so I read through the book once completely and skimmed through a second time areas that I was having trouble with. So I'd highlight different areas or take notes on different areas. Or if I took a quiz on a particular chapter and didn't do so well, I would definitely go back and read through those sections again. The packages does come with the essential of exercise science, and other sources are going to say that you probably don't need to read that fully in depth. I will echo that as well. It is helpful to kind of understand what's kind of going on. In terms of the math portion, I would definitely know all the math. And so anything that has to do with nutrition, I would definitely know it. Know your proteins, your carbs, your fats, know how many calories there is, know how to calculate all those different calculations, because for me, in my exam, I saw those calculations. I know for other people, they went through their exam and they didn't really have any math sections, but the math is pretty straightforward. If you know how to plug and chug, you're gonna get all those questions right. But in terms of the exercise science book, in terms of the anatomy, in terms of everything else that they go through, that stuff you probably don't need to know. It's probably unnecessary. Like I said, I think it's good to kind of just briefly flip through it. Definitely spend most of your time on the training manual, and if the training manual references things from the exercise science book, then that might be a good way to kind of check to see what you know, what you shouldn't know. But definitely get the book, read through it, take notes, highlight what you don't understand, take the practice questions that come from each chapter. Like I said, ACE also has their own online study guide of every chapter, and it breaks down all the chapters, and then it also has quizzes to every chapter. And so do all those questions multiple times. Don't be discouraged the first time you go through those questions if you get like a 50% or if you get like a 60%. A lot of the quizzes for those chapters, I was getting like 50-60%. And it was definitely discouraging. But one thing you should note is that the more you kind of go through it, the more you familiarize yourself with the knowledge and the terminology, ACE tends to use certain topics and principles repetitively. So one thing that you read in chapter 1, you might see in chapter 7, you might see in chapter 9. And so over time, the more you read through it, the more that you're going to just get accustomed to the knowledge and the verbatim. And it's going to be easy to kind of sift through the questions and understand what they're truly asking for. So don't get upset if you don't do well the first time. In my opinion, I believe that those questions, like the ACE practice exam, if you do well on that practice exam the first time, then you're probably pretty good to go, because those questions are pretty hard. Those questions were a lot harder than the questions that I had on my actual ACE exam. And in terms of a scale of 1 to 10, I would feel like the ACE practice exam is probably on a scale of 8.5 to 9 in terms of how hard it is. But the actual exam itself is probably like a 7, 7.5. So I think that's great that they gave you harder questions than you're probably going to see on the actual exam. But it's still good to know them. It's still good to like take them multiple times. Try your best not to memorize the questions, but if you miss a question, go back to the sections in terms of what you missed and understand that from a different perspective. And one way that you can do that is to ask the question in a different way and to see if you can still get the same or get a similar answer in a different format. Okay, so I think that is definitely important. So chapters 1 through 6 is pretty straightforward, but definitely know them, understand the definitions and all that stuff. Chapter 7, from other sources you've probably heard of, is probably the most important chapter. Read through this chapter a couple times. The 5 weeks that I was studying, I read through this chapter at least once every week. Memorize all the bold terms, understand it, test yourself. Just know that chapter really well. Chapters 8 through 12 are also important. They can kind of be tricky in terms of the terminology, so understand where they're coming from with that. Chapter 13 is not that important. There's a lot of sources, and that's the yoga section. A lot of sources will say that ACE may not have even like no questions from that, maybe one question if that. So don't spend a lot of time on that chapter. Don't fret about having to memorize all the different types of yoga and things like that. I think that's just for your basic knowledge in terms of if you're interested in that stuff. And then chapter 14 is also not bad, not super important, but still know that as well. And then finally in chapter 15 through 18, also not too bad, but still good to know. Read through those sections, understand the terminology. Once you go through the book, like I said, you've gone through the quizzes, you've gone through the practice exam, you've familiarized yourself with the exercise science book. Now it's time to take as many questions as you can find. The ACE exam has 150 questions. Only 125 of those questions are graded, and you have 3 hours to take it. So 25 of those questions, and they're going to take that out. But you don't know what those questions are going to be, so that's why it's important to answer all the questions and answer it to the best of your abilities. Now, I'm going to get into more specifics of what to actually study for. So, first thing is going to be adherence, behavior. You're going to see this in the SMART goals. So specific, measurable, attainable, relative, and time bound. So understand those, know the phases of learning, know proper form and correcting, know all the deviations and the compositions and the movement screens in Chapter 7. Understand lordosis and scoliosis and kyphosis. Know how to design a program, the regressions and the progressions. Know safety methods and the RICE acronym. Also know the trans-theoretical model. Like I said before, know your nutrition, your carbs, your fats, your proteins, your values, your water intake. Know the formula that ACE gives you. And as well, know your BMI, your macronutrients, all those things. Your special populations, know those. Your consent form and your liabilities, definitely know those. The good stuff, where can you actually go to get as many practice problems as you can? Like once you go through ACE's practice exam and you've gone through the quizzes, I think those are great. But if you want more practice, if you want to just be 120% sure that you're going to ace the exam, I think getting your hands on as many questions as you can is vitally important. So the first thing you can do is that you can actually just Google free ACE practice exams. I did this, and I probably found like over 300 free questions that I took that were decent questions. And so you might get lucky with that. And so definitely Google search that up and see how many practice problems you can just find for free. If you want another source to go to, there's test.com. I'll leave a link down below. They have 750 questions that they edit or that they update every single year. And so these are updated questions for the 2020 exam. And it's $40. Some of the questions are easy, some are really helpful. And what's cool is that it breaks it down into the sections of the actual exam. And so the first section on the actual ACE exam, you're going to get client interviews and assessments. Second section is going to be program design and implementation. Third section is going to be progression, modification, and maintenance. And then the last section is going to be providing role and responsibilities. So I think the test.com is great because it kind of breaks it down into those sections so you know what questions are going to come from which section and how to answer those questions. So that is definitely really, really key. One thing I also forgot about the book is to memorize table 6.1. Yeah, memorize that. That's a very important table. Anyways, the next place you can get some free ACE questions is PT Pioneer. I'll leave the link down below. I believe that this is a great place to get those free ACE questions right online. Really good questions. Definitely check that out. The next place that I would encourage you to get some questions is the ACE Certified Personal Trainer Exam Prep. Now, this book is $40. Again, I'll leave a link down below. You can get it from Amazon. It's great because it basically summarizes every chapter and it gives you some things to focus on. It gives you bullet points on what to focus on, what to memorize, and at the end of it, it also has some questions that you can take. And lastly, I also made my own teachable course where I collected over 900 questions together from all different resources. I made these questions specifically for my personal gain to help me to get through the ACE exam. I will also leave a link down below. You guys can check that out. So overall summary, number 1, read through the personal trainer manual exam. Number 2, do the online study guide that ACE has along with the quizzes, along with the practice exam. Familiarize yourself with the exercise science book. And number 3, just do a ton of practice problems. I cannot stress this enough. Google some questions about ACE on Google. Go through test.com, which is $40. Go through exam prep, which is $40. This will help you. So anyways, guys, I hope this helps. If you really like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want more content for personal training, definitely subscribe to the channel. Good luck studying. Give me some questions down below. If you have questions, definitely reach out to me. I want to help the best way that I can. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.